is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. I hope that intro made you uncomfortable, but today we are talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the brand new film directed by Quentin Tarantino. I was very excited for this film. I need you guys to let me know in the comments section, were you excited? Are you a fan of Tarantino's movies? Let's talk about this film. So a faded television actor and his stunt double strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969 Los Angeles. You have Leo as Rick Dalton, Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth, and Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. What a cast, what a director, what a cinematographer. The cast and crew of this film is probably the best you are going to see in 2019. So the expectations going in, they are astronomically high. You have the name of Tarantino, you have the name of this entire cast. Can they deliver, one, an entertaining movie, but can they deliver on all of the expectations going in? Because you want this to be a revolutionary film that changes the game, as you do every Tarantino movie. Do I think it is a revolutionary film from a narrative standpoint? Probably not. But do I think it captures the essence of everything that Tarantino was going for? And I'll explain a little bit more here in just a second. I absolutely do. I really enjoyed my experience here. It's not a mainstream experience. It's not an experience that I think everyone is going to enjoy walking out of the theater. I always like to, I guess it is kind of creeping on conversations. But hey, movie-going is a communal experience, and I just like to hear people's thoughts. So I'm always listening in to see what the vibe is coming out of the theater, just to see how people feel. And I overheard one conversation, and the guy said, well, I thought this was supposed to be about Charles Manson and the Manson murders. And without spoiling anything, of course, because I want you guys to have a fresh experience as I did, but this is not a movie about the Manson murders. Now, there are things happening in the background, and they do start to rear their head into the forefront of the plot and really the narrative, but that is not what I believe Tarantino intended to showcase in this film. This is a movie, one, about friendship. It's a movie about friendship, and that's something that I did not expect in the least bit going in, but it's also a film that is telling multiple stories at the same time. We've seen this before in Tarantino's filmography, such as Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown. Really, every movie he's ever directed has showcased this specifically, right? But this movie does it in a different sense. Whereas all of the other movies that he has directed, they're all moving towards something, this big climactic event, whether it happens towards the end of the second act or the third act in its entirety. This film kind of separates itself from the pack and tells different stories, all moving towards something, but maybe those stories don't sync up in the way that you expect going in. I will say no more, but I just really enjoyed how this film approached storytelling, really doing it differently from any other movie under Tarantino's regime. Now, the movie that everyone is comparing this to is Jackie Brown. I like Jackie Brown. It had to follow Pulp Fiction, and I think that's one of the reasons why people look down on it as being a not as good Tarantino movie. Well, sometimes the not as good movies are still really good movies, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one. Now, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I do believe is similar to that in nature, but I would actually compare it more towards Death Proof. And the reason why I say that is because, one, I just watched Death Proof today. The final movie in my Tarantino-thon. I saved it till last because it's been a while since I've watched it. From a narrative standpoint, not a stylistic standpoint, that movie feels very similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but once again, this movie just separates itself from all of those things and makes it known, makes it very evident that this is a film celebrating 1969, well, really the 1960s in its entirety, Hollywood, Los Angeles, whether it's a character driving down the road and spending plenty of time just driving, listening to music, seeing the sights. There's one really cool sequence where you start seeing all of the signs light up, whether it's a hotel or a restaurant or something that people in Los Angeles are probably familiar with. Now, as someone who is on the outside, I can appreciate the celebration. I'm not going to know or notice everything that they're showcasing, but once again, it's really cool to see the sights and hear the sounds. And sound was very prevalent in this film as well. When they're not showcasing something and they're still allowing the audience to listen to it, it just sounded authentic, and it looked authentic when they were showing old television shows. And one really cool aspect about this movie is that they take characters from this film, whether it's Leo or Brad Pitt, and they place them in those old movies. It's Tarantino hearkening back to the days of Hollywood when things were a lot different, and it works because Leo is playing an actor who is playing an actor. That's a hard thing to do, man. It is a really difficult thing to pull off, and I do believe that he absolutely destroyed this role. He was so good, whether it's the scenes where he's breaking down emotionally because he is really past his prime. He's trying to figure out what direction he should go. As an actor, one, yes, but two, he wants to prove himself to the world that he still has it, and to do this, he must believe that he can do it. And it's really cool how Tarantino sets this up too, because there are just long takes, long scenes of Rick Dalton performing as whatever character he's playing, and then right in the middle of that scene, maybe he'll mess up, maybe something will go wrong, and they show everything reset. You really get a good look behind the scenes of how a movie was made during this time, and how difficult it was as a big-time actor to no longer be the top dog, and that's one reason why I resonated with his story so much. And then you have Cliff Booth, who is just a fantastic character. Brad Pitt, as good as Leo was in this movie, Brad Pitt may steal the show. He's basically playing Brad Pitt, but he is this stunt man who goes on his own separate adventure, and that adventure is super interesting because of the way this character is established. He doesn't care. He will do whatever it takes, and the guy is just trying to find his place in the world. He really enjoys the life that he's living. Some would say it's not the best life, but it's just amazing how Tarantino manages to attach you to these two characters. Of course, we're going to attach ourselves because it's two of the biggest actors in Hollywood, but it's all about the characterization, the writing, the dialogue, which I think was absolutely strong and integral to how this movie played out. And then, of course, you have Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate, and you know what? Her character was good, and you see why they spent so much time with her, whether it's long, drawn-out scenes of her watching herself in a theater, so on and so forth. You understand why Tarantino did it. I think we could have cut some time out of this, maybe made the movie a bit more concise, more compact, because 2 hours and 40-something minutes, that is a long runtime for a film, and I absolutely understand if you're watching this, you start to get bored, you start to lose interest in the story and what's happening. I never found myself doing that. I was afraid that I was going to because of some of the reviews that I've been watching and reading, but I was so attached to these characters and really the world that Tarantino built. Yes, it is a more realistic Tarantino movie, absolutely, and you can believe that these characters exist, especially the way that they're portrayed on screen, but it's also a world where Tarantino is playing by his own rules. If he wants to tweak something here or change something there in history, he is going to do it. He knows he has the ability to do this, and he also injects a very just awesome amount of humor in this film. It's not like gut-busting, laugh-out-loud moments, even though there were one or two in there that really worked for me, but there's a lot of really subtle character humor, some jokes that are maybe established in the first act and carry on over into the third act. Now, I have also been hearing that the middle portion of this film, the second act, there is a period of time where it is spent in one particular place, and that didn't work for a lot of people, and I completely understand the lull. It is definitely a lull. I love the first act. I love the third act. That middle portion for me is something that I was kind of sitting back going, okay, we need to move this along because I just want to get where we're going. It could have to do with the fact that I was attaching myself so much to these characters and the way that they were portrayed, or it was just the fact that I'm like, yeah, I'm not as into this part as I was the last part, but the build-up was great. The characters are awesome. You have all of these side players as well, from Dakota Fanning to Al Pacino. Some may be disappointed at the screen time that certain actors and certain characters get in this film. Once again, read the summary, know what you're getting into, know it's 3 hours long, and know it is a Tarantino film, a very different and refreshing Tarantino film that I was afraid was going to be too self-indulgent. And don't get me wrong, it's absolutely self-indulgent. Once again, he plays by his own rules, but for me, those are rules that really, really worked. And at the end of the day, Tarantino's movies are always films that I have to see multiple times before I get the concrete score in my head. Right now, I'm going 90% for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but keep up with me on Letterboxd. I'm going to rewatch it, maybe change my tune, but probably not too much because I really had a great time with this movie. I was in it from beginning to end, and with a 3-hour film, that is pretty impressive, and we just don't get movies like this anymore. The cinematography, the color, the look, just the technical aspects of this film are brilliant, but the way that this story was told, it's really a story about people conversing. It's a lot of dialogue, and some people aren't going to love that, and they're going to get to the end, they're going to go, well, that was anticlimactic. Why did I watch this film? Well, it's all about character investment, and the acting in this film is just so monumentally good. I feel like I could sit and dissect each individual idea and moment that Tarantino came up with and how it played into the beginning and the end of the film, guys. There's so many things to talk about with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I appreciate you guys watching this video. The most important thing here is, how did you feel about this movie? And later on this weekend, we have a brand new Amazon Prime show. We have some things dropping on Netflix tomorrow. Actually, probably Saturday, I'll be doing my Tarantino tier list, and I will also be ranking all of the Tarantino movies in one video. I appreciate you guys watching this. You are truly the best, and I'll see you very soon.